Hello, this is Diecast Loon. I hope you're all doing well, and today's video is going to be the restoration of this awesome Matchbox Jaguar Mark 10 that was very nicely sent to me by Tyrone from Building the Ultimate Matchbox Collection. He actually approached me or emailed me about 3 weeks ago now, something like that, maybe a little bit longer, and just asked if I'd be interested in working on one of his vintage pieces that somebody had already gave a coat of white paint to, because this car should actually be in like a goldy browny colour, and so he wants me to restore it, but he doesn't want a custom, he wants a restoration, but he wants a restoration with a little extra. So that is what I'm going to be doing to it, is giving it a little extra. So anyway, a little information on the car. So obviously it is a Matchbox, number 28C. Its actual colour should have been metallic brown. Produced from 1967 to about 1968. It did start off with grey plastic wheels, and then at some point towards 1968, I presume probably 1968 year, they changed to black plastic. Its length is 70 millimeters, so it is quite small. So that is the information on the car. So anyway, let's take a closer look at the car before I strip it. So as you can see, someone has given it a coat of white paint, and they haven't done too bad a job, apart from for something that's been brushed on, I presume. Either that or they've masked up really well. But it looks like it was done quite some time ago. So hopefully, let's see how thick it is. It's on there quite well. Hopefully it's not going to give me too much trouble coming off, because sometimes, you know, the stripper that I use, most of the time it strips off castings in minutes, half an hour, usually an hour if it's quite a thick paint. But sometimes these unknown paints can give a little bit of bother, but anyway, we'll see. So anyway, let's get it drilled out and stripped and look at what we got to work with. So let's get it drilled. So 2 seconds. And here it is, already drilled out. That's the great thing about these older Matchbox castings. You don't need to drill very much. So that is the great thing. So we'll look at the base first. So obviously I'm going to take the wheels off of this off camera, and clean them up, clean up the axles. These aren't too hard to get off. You just basically file down gently on these corner nubs, and then the wheels pop off. And then again, when you put it back together, you just put it on a hard piece of metal and give it a tap with a little hammer and a punch. So these are quite simple to get off. As you can see, there's a little burr. So this will be getting stripped in the strip pot as well, and give this either a coat of black or maybe a coat of silver. I don't know yet. I'll see as I go on. And here is the main event. So it has got, let's get a bit of zoom. 2 seconds. There we go. So it has got one of these plastic suspension springs. If I can get the back out, here we go. 2 secs. There we go. So there is the little plastic bottom piece. I will leave that in situ just for the minute and pull it off camera. This I'm going to give a good wash, and I think I'm just going to give the whole interior a coat of red and maybe paint the steering wheel black. Keep it simple, as it is quite a simple interior, but just by giving it a coat of paint, it will make it look more like a real Jaguar from back in the day, because a lot of them did have leather interiors, or leather seats should I say. So that will make it look a bit more detailed, but still keeping the authentic look of the original Matchbox car. There's the bonnet. So again, that will get stripped. And here is the car itself. The glass will be riveted. There you go, the glass is riveted. So again, I will remove that off camera. But basically the plan I've got for this is, like I said, it's just to strip it all down, give it a fresh coat of paint. The colour I'm going to paint it, I'm not going to reveal until the end. And basically, I'm going to make it look like an authentic Jaguar. So I'm going to give it a Jaguar authentic sort of colour from this sort of time period. Clean the interior up, give it a bit of paint, and maybe a little bit of engine detail and some light detail, and that's about it really. It will still look and be like as if it came from Lesney itself. Anyway, with that, let's get this in the strip pot, let's get it cleaned up and sprayed, and I'll bring it back, or I should say I'll show you it at the reveal. So see you in a minute. And here it is, the Mark 10 Jag, all out of the strip pot. So it has been through the stripping process now, and it actually come up cleaner than I thought. It's pretty much, you can see a little bit left on the base and a little bit on the bonnet, but very little. So, and I was a little bit apprehensive, being the fact that it had quite a few layers of extra paint. So I want to really put on the white paint by hand, very thick. But no, it came off well. So the next step now is to get my Dremel tool on this with the wire brush attachment and get off all the extra little bits and bobs, and then go over it with a very fine sandpaper and degrease it, ready for spraying. And when I've done all that, I will turn my attention to the interior and the glass itself and get the scratches out of the glass and do something with the interior. But the interior and the glass and the wheels have all been washed as well, so they're just waiting to be worked on next. So anyway, the next time you see this little Mark 10 Jaguar from Matchbox, it will be assembled and finished. And here it is, all done, and it hasn't turned out too bad considering, fighting the adverse weather. As I said, over here in the UK, it is the winter now, and like I said, I do most of my spraying outside. Sometimes I manage to do it in my shed, but the real issue is trying to keep the car at a decent temperature. But anyway, that being said, it is done. I've got a few little areas I want to just touch up, but primarily it is done, and I will be sending this back to Tyrone possibly in about a week's time, as even though it is dry, I want the car to fully cure before I send it. This car has taken roughly about 3 days to do, if you add the time up all together. Like I said, a few hours to strip it, and then basically do all the preparation work to it, and then a day of spraying, and then a day of a couple. Like I said, it's been drying for a couple of those days. When I say a day of spraying, it wasn't really a day of spraying, it was more of a couple of hours of spraying. And then it spent like the rest of that day and the whole of the next day sort of drying before I assembled it. But it was more cobbled together quicker than I would have liked. Like I said, the biggest problem is over here, it is winter, so I am dealing with doing the car in the winter. If it had been, you know, the summertime, a lot better. But anyway, enough of all that. Let's take a look at the actual car. So here it is in this awesome light blue. The windows, as you can see, have had a good clean up. They were it looked like someone had taken a scouring pad to them. There was some wasn't so much big scratches, just very, very fogged up, and they didn't come out too bad. I managed to get most of it out. You can now see the burgundy interior that I did. So the interior has had a coat of burgundy paint or spray, which is not a lot of light here today. It's quite a dark day, and I'm right next to the window, so you can see, but this car does look great. When I actually initially assembled this car yesterday, it was a better day, and it really did look good. Rear painted lights, and obviously the bumper's been painted in silver. I've left the tow hitch white, front painted details, grille, lights, again in silver. I didn't want to use chrome pen on this car. I wanted to keep the car more of a pastel colours, more like plain colours, and so the underneath is now silver rather than black. The wheels have had a refurb. It's all been refurbed. We'll take a little look under the engine. Let's maybe turn the car around this way a bit. And I don't know how well it's coming out on camera, because like I said, it is quite dark here. Let's see if we can get it this way. So let's get a bit more zoom on. There you go. You can see the engine's had coat of silver, battery's been done in red, and the carbs, tops of the carbs in gold. This car would have had I think it's a 3.8 straight 6 in this, with quad carbs. The air filter's done in silver, the radiator's done in black. You can see the little radiator cap's done. I've got a little bit of black paint to fill in there. That's what I was on about earlier, a little bit of touching up. Got a little bit of black paint to fill in on that, but it hasn't turned out too bad. So like I said, Tyrone basically wanted this car to be a restoration, a simple restoration, but with my sort of spin on things. And so I think that's what I've managed to achieve, is making the car still look like a Lesney product, but just giving it a little bit of a dress up. The only issue I did have is I had to shave some paint off the bonnet there and there. As you can see, I had to shave it off a little bit because the bonnet wouldn't shut right. And because when these cars were done back in the day, they didn't have a lot of paint on them. They were a very thin coat. In actual fact, under the bonnet, they would have not been sprayed. Let's have a little actual fact. I've got one here. Let me just get mine out. 2 seconds. Move the camera back a little bit, and I'll show you my one that I haven't restored yet. So let's just move this. So this is my one that I bought quite a few months ago, and as you can see, the shut line isn't great on these, but and you can see what the car is like now. It was, as I said, a dark metallic brown, but if you look under the bonnet, this one hasn't got any paint on the engine, or if it did, it's all come off. But you can see the bonnet, there wasn't a lot of paint underneath, and the paint was very thin. So when I resprayed this one and put one coat of primer and a very thin scratch coat of blue, then a top coat of blue, and then some undercut, some lacquer, it was just too thick. So I had to shave some off. But it has got a nice, like I said, this camera ain't doing it justice. The light in here is bad. It has got a really nice reflection, as you can see. You can see the window there and the top of the roof. But anyway, like I said, it is done. I hope Tyrone will be happy with this. Like I said, I've got a few little bits I want to touch up on it. Just like I said, under the bonnet there, it's got a bit of fluff there. So I have got a few little bits that I got to touch up, and I'm also going to give it a very light coat of little coat of wax, because that'll make it look really, really shiny before I send it off. But anyway, with that, please like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned for more vintage pieces, restorations, wheel swaps, customs, premium pieces, challenge videos, and all that good stuff to come. And with that, I'll see you all very soon. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye for now. Back very briefly, forgot to mention earlier, stay tuned for Vintage Matchbox Mondays episode 7. That will be being uploaded after this video. It's going to be all about Super Kings, Matchbox Super Kings this week, so stay tuned for that. I just thought I'd mention it. See you all soon.